Hey everyone, welcome to the Tom's Hardware Podcast for today, May 21st, 2024. As always, I'm Tom's Hardware Editor-in-Chief, Abram Pilch, joined today by Associate Editor Les Pounder, and our very special guest, friend of the show, Kevin McAleer, is
Everyone.
here today to talk about his latest project. If you have been paying attention online or watched the show for a while, you know that Kevin is one of the world's leading makers building robots with Raspberry Pi, and he has yet another really exciting project that he's working on right now, a fortune telling robot.
Yeah,
So, what can you tell us about that?
let me tell you all about that. So, I've got some slides here that I can talk you through. So, yes, I'm creating a fortune-telling robot that's called Volterra. Um, it's based on the movie Big, the Zoltar cabinet that you can see in the movie there, that gives Tom Hanks his wish of being big as a small kid. But this one is Raspberry Pi 4 powered, and it uses the Unix fortunes command to generate little fortune cookie like messages. And you can see on the front there, it has a thermal printer. This is an Adafruit thermal printer that can use to print out the messages. So I've actually built this for the open source event in June this next month. And the idea was it's an interactive exhibit. It's something that people can see, they can touch, they can take a message away, and keep that until the message fades. So it's something fun, and they can take away with them. And it has Kev's robots written on the back of the message as well, or just underneath. And it's small enough to ship over from the UK to the US, where this event is being held. So I actually saw a Zoltar machine in the flesh. This one was at Mother Shipton's Cave, which is a really weird tourist attraction in the UK. I think it's the oldest tourist attraction in the UK, possibly the world. 1630 it was actually opened, but they had this one in their little gift shop. So it's not screen accurate, but it was quite fun. And it was just serendipitous that I saw that there. So I designed the actual structure for this in Fusion 360. It's mostly 3D printed. There's a bit of resin in there as well. And it has these really fun arcade buttons that you can get from the likes of Pimoroni or Pi Hut. So very simple button. And that's basically just on the front of the machine there. The thermal printer, like I said, is from Adafruit. I'm not sure they actually sell thermal printers anymore, but when they did, I bought this one and I use it for a couple of other projects. And yes, there's a little Volterra head. I've not finished this off yet, so there's a little head that will sort of go back and open and close. There's a bit of a close-up. That's also 3D printed as well.
That is very Tim Burton,
isn't it? Yeah,
that's lovely.
So Jenny did the printing for that, and it's got these little holes in the side, and the idea being we've got this little servo, and that's going to basically just pull the head sort of down and make it sort of do its little mouth open and mouth closed. I've not finished that bit yet. We've even bought some hair for the model as well, so it'll be complete. Just need to do that bit. And so the 3D model itself then, it's quite structural. I designed it so that it could all screw together with some simple M2 screws, and it's even got some corner pieces inside just to give it a bit more rigidity. You can see the Raspberry Pi 4 that's in this one. I had a few Raspberry Pi 4s knocking around, so that's what I decided to use for that. And it doesn't need anything more powerful than that. It's not doing an awful lot, to be honest. And the screws are slightly offset, so when they go through, they don't sort of clash, and you get that extra strength to the design. And simply I measured the thermal printer. That kind of decides the form factor, how big this model would be, because I wanted it to be just sort of in the front, and similar with the arcade button as well. Just measured that with my calipers to make sure that would fit in nicely to the design. And yes, Raspberry Pi 4 powered. It's simply Raspberry Pi 4 because it can run the full Linux stack and run Python. And I'm familiar with the fortunes command. I used to use that at university to get like funny little messages. I think there's like a -A to get like non-offensive ones, so it's family friendly. And we can also animate the lighting effects, the animation of the model moving, as well as when you press the button, it will spit out a fortune. It's very simple to sort of put together there as well. So yeah, the frame itself, these were 3D printed, and then we poured resin into it to make this kind of glass effect, and it works really well. It's completely transparent, but it gives it the illusion that there's glass in there, and it's perfectly sized and very light as well, and pretty durable. So yeah, Jenny's very much into the resin stuff, and we've even created some little crystal ball things to go inside the model as well. I'm going to uplight this from like an LED. So there's like a little crystal ball type thing. That's going to go just in the front as well. Yep, and the resin simply just pours out onto a silicon mat underneath and then hardens after about a day. And there's also a little top piece as well just to finish it and stop stuff from falling into it. And then painting it, we did quite a few different tests of the best paint. Because it's plastic, it's best if it's acrylic paint. That seems to work best. And we did, this was like a test piece that we had that cutouts at the bottom there is for the Raspberry Pi, so the power, the 2 DVI connectors, and I forgot on this particular one to put a hole for the audio jack because the Raspberry Pi 5 doesn't have that, and I was using the 5 model, so I had to reprint this one with a hole for the Raspberry Pi 4's audio jack. So yeah, we tried some blue paint on this one. It was like a black undercoat, and then we tried metallic silver, metallic gold, and this metallic blue. The metallic blue was the best kind of finish to it, so I'll show you in a second on the desk what that actually looks like. And the previous paint job didn't quite cut it. It looked quite amateurish, so we tried that again. But you can see the gold came out quite nice on those sort of side pieces. So yeah, the electronics, it's actually very simple from an electronics point of view. We just have the arcade button going to 2 pins on there, and it can just detect if it's being pressed or not. I bought these little power connectors so that I can power the thermal printer. It can't be powered by the Raspberry Pi's power. It needs about 2 amps of its own because it's heat based. But it also meant that we've got some extra power for some lighting and stuff as well. And then from the point of view of how you send data to this little thermal printer, it's a simple UART device. You just need a transmit and receive. And really, you don't even need the receive. You just need to be able to transmit to the printer and just send it ASCII text and some control characters to do bold text and underlined and all that kind of stuff. And Adafruit have produced a really cool library for this. Again, they don't support this anymore, but it still works. So that's all good. So it's simply the push button is on GPIO 23, and then the UART is just connected to the Raspberry Pi's UART connection. I think you just have to disable the serial to the console to serial options in the hardware. In Raspberry config, and it works fine. And yes, the code is obviously Python because I love Python, and it just works. And it's very simple. That program you can see on screen there pretty much does everything we need to do to print things to the printer. So you can see there we've got things like print dot underline on, set the size to medium, justify the text to be centered, print out a message like fortune teller, and then you can turn the underline off, set the size back to small, and the justify to the left-hand side. Feed simply just spits out the paper from the thermal printer, and then we can just print whatever your message is. So on this first version, I just said your wish is granted, which I think is what's on the movie Big. And then I just got like an underline and my website. That link doesn't work just yet because I've not written up the project just yet.
The line that says printer feed 2 in parenthesis, what's the 2 referring to? Is it 2 lines or 2 seconds?
Exactly that. 2 lines, so just 2 lines. So yeah, you can do 1 line at a time. And you can even print bitmaps and things with this printer. It is quite sophisticated, but you can get into some technical issues. I'll talk about those in a second. Well, in fact, here we are. So yeah, one of the issues with printing images is it can cause a buffer overflow, and this printer is like really non-sophisticated, and if you send it too much data, it just overwrites what's already in there. So in effect, the best way to deal with that is to slow the printer down, and you can do that by changing the baud rate on the printer. So back to baud rates, something from the 1980s and 90s, is that really? And it needs 2 amps of power. I had quite a few problems where it would print a bit and then stop after a while, and it was because it was pulling too much power from the shared USB. So I've now got it on its own power supply, which is fine. And then just trying out the different painting techniques. It took quite a lot of goes at that to make it something that we're actually happy with. So let me show you the actual model. I've got it on my desk. I can go to this overhead view here, so you can actually see the button. If I press the button, it's running the code now, so it'll print out a little message. So I'll just tear that off. I can hold this up to the screen if I come back over here. Hopefully we'll be able to see what this says. An authority is a person that can tell you more about something you care to know. There you go. So I've got absolutely hundreds of these little messages just printed out. Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of how it works. I can show you like a slightly different view there, so you can see we've got the button. If I sort of turn this model round,
the finish is lovely on the paint. I have to say, it looks rustic. It looks used. It's it's world used.
Old arcade machine. You can see it's really nice when things just fit. So these connectors, for the Raspberry Pi 4 really work well, and then the little power connector there as well. And yeah, it kind of splits into two halves. The reason there's a wire going up there, there's actually some lighting. If I can tip this without it falling over, to probably just make out in there. There's a little Adafruit Circuit Python playground, is it called? Which is just like a little. This is doing some lighting effects for me. But with the strong studio lights, you can't really see that too much. But yeah, really works well. It's a really fun thing to do, and you get to sort of walk away with some wisdom from the Unix Fortunes command.
Well, the wisdom it dispenses, so it's from the Fortune Teller command in Bash. Are you using a Python library to interact with that, or are you just getting it straight from Bash? So it's like os.system to call.
Yeah, let me show you that. So if I can just go over to let me just bring this up. So oops. Let me jump over to there. So if I open up, let's see, a message. So the way that we connect to the serial device is just that line there. So just an Adafruit dev/serial 0, the baud rate and the timeout. Yeah. And then to actually do the Fortune command, we use the sub process run Fortune and then whatever -A-S. So if I come down here and if I just move this up a bit so we can see it a bit easier, there we go. And if I just type in Fortune-A, -A, you can see the kind of thing that happens there. You can just keep doing that to get different fortunes. And if you do -S, it will always be a short one, which is quite good for these sort of. Otherwise, it can be pages long in theory. There's loads of different fortunes out there. You can download them for almost any subject matter as well, which is quite cool. So say you like just Star Trek ones, you could just do that. But yeah, I've just chosen a mixture of any that are in there. So it's as simple as that. That's the
That's
code.
Very cool. Good use of sub process.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's it. It just works. So And
have you got any plans in the future to import cow say and then to pipe it through that so you get a cow giving you your fortune?
Could do that. Absolutely could use cow say. Yeah, and then from if I do a kind of a split screen thing here, so when I press that button there, you can see it says on the console, press button for fortune. I press that, it's actually going to print out what's being sent to the printer, as well as what is on screen there. So if I can get that to focus. Where's the voice of the heart, which is what it says, just in the little console there. And then it's ready for you to press the button again. The great thing is this paper is really cheap to buy. And you don't need any kind of ink or anything. It's just thermal. So they're really nice, these thermal printers. They're great for projects just like this. Very simple to do. So yeah, there's not a lot extra we need to do for this project to sort of complete it ready for open source. It's really just putting that little model in there so it can do that little animation where it opens its head. And a bit like on the movie.
So what 3D printers have you used to build that? You mentioned resin. Is there FDM as well?
So you can just about see the 3D printer here. It's an Ender Pro 3, I think the version 1 of the Ender Pro 3. I've also got another printer just over the other side, which is the Ender Pro 3 version 2. But then we've used the just resin. It sounds like a thermal printer in the background. Just resin, just pouring resin for the rest of the model, just to do this sort of glass effect on there.
That's a clever way of creating the glass, because I would have gone with acrylic, but then you've got the problem of cutting acrylic is a nightmare.
That's it. cutting it just to the right size, and it's quite difficult to cut. And yeah, this was just, it pours and it makes a perfect fit. The other thing that we did as well, which is quite subtle, if I go back to that camera, in fact, if I go to that camera, I just tilt this up a bit. We've got some nice text on there that says Volterra.
Yeah.
And that was, I used the Cricut for that. So I've got one of these Cricut machines that can cut out, what's it called, vinyl. And the vinyl then just sticks onto there. So, yeah, ends up being a quite nice kind of effect to it there. So that wire won't be dangling like that. We're going to have like some curtains at the back behind Volterra. And you can just see the little table that's in there as well. It comes apart. It's kind of in two halves at the moment. That's just so we can get at anything that's we need to inside. So yeah,
I love it. And a question to ask is, how are you going to power it on the day? Is it only mains powered, or can you give it a USB battery pack and
you could
use it?
Yeah, so I could power it from one of these, like I've got a little power pack here. This one has been powering that chip robot all weekend at the Maker Central, and this one lasted all weekend.
Wow.
So yeah, it's they don't take a lot of power. The Raspberry Pi 4 might, I think it can run on that for about 4 or 5 hours on battery, but we do have power at the event, so there shouldn't be a problem.
Oh, brilliant! Very cool.
It is a chip from the Maker Central event that I took along on my backpack. It's a
companion robot.
RP 2040 powered robot.
Very cool.
That is really cool. So did you leave that on your backpack the whole time?
That's it. Yep. So I just wondered about with this on my backpack, just sort of zip tied on there.
How often does it move?
So I've got this. Let me just pull it off here. So I've got a cable connected to this this little USB switch. So you just put like USB in one side and USB comes out the other side. So it's kind of in line. And it just means you can apply power. And then it's just running a script to do the same set of animations. So I can get it to sort of wave at people just as they walk past, just by flicking the switch. And it's powered. And that can, the weight of the battery doesn't pull on the robot either. This can just be in my pocket. So that was designed just for that event.
Brilliant. How was Maker Central? It's in Birmingham, NEC, isn't it?
That's correct. Yeah. So it's kind of a UK version of Maker Faire. So it's just UK only. It's quite heavy on the YouTubers. So there's a lot of YouTubers who are there, like Colin Furs, who has the underground tunnel system and bunker under his house. And he makes like he had like a pizza bike and other crazy inventions. They also had the hacksmith there. He was sharing the stage with Colin as well. And then there's quite a few of the UK YouTuber set as well. So it's good to see all those people in the flesh. And to meet some subscribers as well, to meet some people who have followed KevRobots.com as well.
Awesome. Did you see any cool projects there that you think you'll never go at?
So I saw quite a few builds. I don't know whether I'd be able to have a go at them. So they had the Johnny 5 replica. That was absolutely amazing. So it's a full-size replica of the Johnny 5 robot. And it actually has more articulation than the ones in the movie, because they had I think he said they had 28 Johnny 5s. And each one had like a special thing. So one might just be the head, like the hero shot for the head. Another one might just be the hands. His does everything. And he built it 3D printed and CNC'd all by himself. So that is amazing. That's to see that was pretty cool. One of people I know, Dan from Dan Makes Things, he has a little robot that he brought along to the show that was in his backpack. So that was really cool to see that. And we had Keegan Neve from Neve Engineering. He had his robot there as well, NE5. That was quite cool. Even let me have a go on the hacky races. So that was quite cool. Going around the racetrack in a little cardboard box. Yeah.
Very cool. I'm envious of you. I didn't make it this year, unfortunately, but I want to go.
Cool.
Yeah. So about the printer, I was just doing some really quick research, and it looks like Adafruit doesn't sell it anymore, which is sad. Pimoroni doesn't sell it anymore. And I see that there are USB on Amazon, at least here in the United States. There are USB thermal receipt printers, but I don't know if they would work with
Yeah, it should work
with the code
exactly
you
the
have?
same. Yeah, so they come in two versions. There's the TTL version, which is what I've got, and that just has that UART connection.
Mhm.
And then there's a USB version, and simply they've just got a little adapter that plugs into the printer, provides that USB connector, like is it an FTDI type connector?
Yeah.
And you can actually unplug that and just go straight to UART if you wish. So yeah, either of those would do. They're a very common thermal printer.
Yeah,
So
but they're not as cute looking as the one that you have. They're like because I think they're made to be used
yeah,
by like people who have a store or something, not
yeah,
the ones on Amazon. They're not made for projects like this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of sad because I like the little thermal printer. In
Yeah.
this world of digital everything, occasionally getting a piece of paper is actually kind of
that's it. Quite
kind of fun. A few months ago, a while ago, my son and I went to like a retro gaming festival, and they had old was it Game Boys that had this, or also I think Palm Pilots or Palm
Wow.
that
Yeah.
had a little tiny printer that
Yeah.
would print
Wow.
out like a little tiny picture of you.
Game Boy
And-
printer. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there was a Game Boy one. There might have been a PDA one back in the day.
More than likely, yeah.
So that's
So-
that's an Adafruit logo that I did as a test print.
Yep.
So you can print out.
Nice.
So, we printed it and it looked terrible, but it was like kind of cool, right? That you had that. And of course,
Yeah.
there are all these little photo printers that people have now because, it's kind of a novelty actually to get something on paper these days.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I did have one of those. I don't know what I've done with it, but I had one of the it's like a small pocket-sized thermal printer that you can print from your iPhone, and it gives you like an instant black and white Polaroid, I guess, but it's just a thermal printer, just like that one. And they've got it running off a couple of AA batteries, which is quite impressive, given the amount of heat that requires.
Is there such a thing as one that does it in color? Or is thermal printing in color?
Color thermal.
I've not heard of that.
No.
No.
Yeah. Oh well, it's pretty neat. I'd love to see more things with paper interaction in them too, right?
Yeah.
Like, has anybody? I'm sure someone has probably worked on a way of using punch cards as an input for a Pi project. I think that would be fascinating to have. I mean, I guess you'd have to have a way of making the punch card in the first place, but
Yeah.
Use a punch card, I think would be fun.
You make the punch card. You do a series of LDRs and LEDs, and just put the punch card through a gate. And as the lights go through, and the LDRs read whichever ones are open.
Yeah.
So you're reading the GPIO pins, and then read them all into an array, then store the array, then read back to the array, and that's your program code. Hey, we've done it. We've written it. Sorted.
There we go. That's why we have 80 columns, isn't it, on like a regular DOS screen? It's because it relates to punch cards. That's how many columns they had on them.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. I'm going to tell my son that when he gets home from school in a few minutes. It's going to blow his mind, and he'll keep repeating it to me because he's big on these days on repeating me computer history questions.
Love it.
All the time, right? Driving me nuts with it. Like, although his focus seems to be a lot on like the history of Windows, which is like, come on, let's keep it more interesting than that. But he'll say things to me like, can you name all the code names for the different Windows? What was Windows 95? It was Chicago, that kind of stuff, right? But it's I think it's really fun to have paper as an output. So I really commend you for that. That's really cool. Also reminds me a little bit of my favorite show, Space 1999, where they were on the show and like the computer would it would always give them a little printout. It wouldn't, who knows how they got more paper or ink in space though. I don't know.
They had a great recycling program. That's what they had.
Yeah.
Or on Back to the Future 2, when they had the "You're Fired" and it came out of a fax machine that was like really small. Remember that looked really futuristic back in 1985, whenever it was it came out.
Yeah, exactly. Get to keep all of your messages that you've received from the computer.
That's it.
So, Les, what are you working on? I know you've got a bunch of really cool things on your desk.
Oh, I have indeed, yes. Lots of cool things. So I'm going to take you to the messy desk. So as you can see, a plethora of Pi stuff all around. We have a new Ice Tower Plus cooler sent in by the Pi Hut. Thank you very much. This is the massive fan version of it. It's an 80mm fan compared to the previous version. I think it was about 40 or 60mm. Stupidly large. That's on for test. An RP2040 powers aluminium shell, which has a screen on it. Not powered it up just yet, but apparently it's got accelerometer. You can put pictures on it, whatever you want. Great fun. We just finished the review of the M.2 hat. That's got an Editor's Choice Award on that one. Very nice hat for your NVMe, for your Pi 5. We've got the Duo from Pimoroni. This has been on for a couple of weeks now. Need to get this reviewed very soon because now the firmware on the Pi 5 has been changed. You can boot from NVMe and have an additional NVMe drive as well. So you can have a smaller one for booting and a stonking great 4TB drive ready to go. You've got yourself a NAS in a very small form factor. Another one as well. This is from Geekworm. It looks just like a standard PCB, but you stick a Pi 5 on that and a PCIe connection, and then stick 4 NVMe drives on the back, and you've got a very interesting NAS in a very small form factor. That's on the bench test, but something new came in, and this isn't general retail, this board, but if we look here, you might just think, Les, that's Compute Module 3 Plus. It's not. That is a Compute Module 4S. Let's do the YouTuber trick to get the focus. Come on, phone, don't phone me now. No. There you go, 4S. So that is a Compute Module 4 using the old SODIMM form factor, using the Compute Module 1 to 3. And I've got it running right now. I've got it flashed. I've got Wi-Fi connected. The board doesn't come with Wi-Fi because the old ones didn't. So you have to plug in a USB Wi-Fi dongle. And if I go to my capture, you should be able to see this is a terminal on the Pi. So if I do ls, you can see, there you go. It's pretty new. It's about an hour old, this installation. But if I just run a command to show that it is running on a 4S, you'll see. Let's get the right mouse so I can highlight it. There we go. Under host, Raspberry Pi Compute Module 4S Rev 1. So this is Rev 1 of the boards. There may be more in the future. We don't know. There could be. This is an 8 gig model with 32 gig eMMC. So on that board there, we've got 8 gig and 32 gig of eMMC, which that's the RAM, that's the eMMC there. So this has been created to replace the older boards now, these ones here, so Compute Module 3 Plus, 3 and the 1, which are going to be a bit long in the tooth, but people want to use the same carrier board or have designed a carrier board for that form factor. Because if you look at the Compute Module 4, it's a different form factor, so you can't just swap one to the other. There are adapter boards, but your mileage does vary with those. This just drops straight in, and away you go. You've now got a quad-core processor running at 1.4 gig, 8 gig of RAM, 32 gig eMMC, ready to go. And your project has been upgraded. So they're not for general retail, these boards. You have to buy them in units of 100 to buy them. So if you need 100 Compute Module 4Ss, brilliant. But Joe Public at the moment can't buy these. But we've got one for review to compare it against the original Compute Module 4, and that'll be coming very soon.
Great. Well, it seems like there's a lot of very interesting stuff that is coming out now for Pi 5.
Yeah. We've got more stuff coming for the Pi 5. I forgot to mention, Pine Boards are sending pretty much their entire range for review.
Wow.
That's coming end of this week. So we'll have Coral TPUs to play with, more NVMe hats to play with as well.
So Coral TPUs, this is very interesting to me. Are we going to see, because you can get a Coral TPU, we've been able to get a Coral TPU, what's that?
That's the piano hat.
Piano, yeah.
Unreleased. Yeah, this is before they changed the name, this is a Pineberry Pi one. But that's the the Raspberry Pi 5 doesn't have the audio jacks. This kind of brings them back, as well as having an NVMe connector on there as well. So I think they've renamed that. Yep.
So I was thinking about, like, is it going to be any faster than the Coral TPU that people have been able to get for years as a USB stick from Google?
Don't know. I
So
haven't
I have
tested
the
it. So
yeah, I've got the Coral chip. I've actually not used it yet though. I believe they've been working on some stuff to make it work to be able to use it a lot easier.
Mhm.
I was hoping to use it on Frigate to do some
Mhm.
AI face detection and that kind of stuff. But I saw it on the Embedded World where they announced but haven't launched the new AI camera. That'd
Yeah.
be quite interesting because that has all that built in, so it can do face detection and sort of posture detection, all the kind of OpenCV type, very simple models that can do that on device, which is pretty cool. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm very interested to see how they work and can we use that with Frigate as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fascinating. Really curious to see whether we're going to get a boost in AI from the new Coral chip. Obviously, stuff that can't wait to see what happens with that camera.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
hoping to have some new capabilities that really help us to do more with image and sound detection in particular. Um, Anyway, I want to thank Kevin for joining us once again and sharing his amazing project. Uh, Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. We'll be back next week on Tuesday, the 28th at our same time, 7 p.m. UK time, 2 p.m. US time, and we'll see you all then. Bye, everyone.